Hello, my name is Avery, which you probably already know because you are probably coming from my Instagram, but if you just happen to stumble across this video on the internet, hello, it is nice to meet you. This is the second installment of what I can now officially call series, a series entitled Revamped, where I take an album and I review it, reorder it, and now I'm adding a ranking for the album. And the album that I've chosen to do today is Out of the Blue by Brynn Cartelli, which, as of filming, came out yesterday. So that was March 1st. Now, the blue shirt was planned, and I wish I could say the blue background was really planned, but in all honesty, this is like the only place that I can film this today, and I need to get this out of my system today, so we're doing it here. And I really hope that you enjoy this wonderful lighting that I've got going on, especially with the computer light that's about to be shining on my face the whole time, because here are my notes. If you don't know who Brynn Cartelli is, or you maybe vaguely know the name, she won The Voice season 14 in 2018, and now she writes, records, releases her own music. She has at least one EP that I know of, and this is her debut album. I started following Brynn after The Voice, and I've kind of kept up with her on her social medias. That's how I knew about her EP, and I listened to her EP. I really liked her EP. She officially gained a spot on my People I Want to See Live list because I'm just obsessed with her voice, and I know that she can sing live, obviously. She won The Voice. So when she announced that she was releasing her debut album, I was very, very excited, and I've been waiting in anticipation for it to come out. It finally did, and I have lots of things to say about it. Now, this is going to be a little bit different from the Think Later video that I put out because I really, really liked this album. I came up with the concept for Revamped kind of centered around Think Later because I really felt like that album was lacking structure, and it didn't seem like there was a lot of intent put behind the ordering of that album. So that's why I decided to reorder it. But with this album, I can tell that there was a lot of thought put into the placement of the tracks, and I actually really like the order. I really like the pacing. And so in doing a revamped video for this album, I feel like I'm kind of expanding the definition of what revamped can be for, and really I just want to use it to not only reorder albums that I think are misordered, but also just reorder albums in a way that's fun or different, or can make you view the songs differently and give the album a different structure and provide a different listening experience than the original one that the artist put out. So yes, I'm not doing this because I didn't like the album or that I feel like the order needs to change or should change. I'm just doing it for fun. Something that I really loved about this album was the vocals. As I mentioned before, Brynn has an incredible voice. I just think her voice is so versatile and it's so emotive, and I just love it so much. Brynn Cartelli, if you ever find this video, please, please, please come to Minneapolis, come to Des Moines, even Chicago. You know, I would take Chicago, just anywhere in the Midwest, because I need to see you live, and I will buy tickets immediately. Besides just the vocals, I also think that the songwriting is really, really strong on this album. Brynn is definitely a songwriter. She talks about writing songs a lot. She's the sole songwriter on a lot of these songs, and I was, by and large, really impressed with the songwriting on this project. And there were a lot of details. The storytelling was really good. There was a lot of vulnerability in the songs and a lot of Brynn in the songs, which is something that I really respect and can really appreciate. That being said, I'm going to do something similar to what I did with Think Later, and I'm going to go through each of the tracks on the album in the order that they are originally, and I'm going to talk about my favorite lyrics and give just my general mini reviews on each of the songs. So starting with Beginning of the End. The lyric that I wrote down from this one is, I get in my way, I'm starting to spiral, I'm only staying for the revival, what do I say when my heart is on trial? Man, I love it when writers rhyme more than 2 words. You know, that they go beyond the standard couplet. She chooses to rhyme 3 times a lot instead of 2 times, which I think is a really interesting thing that you don't see a lot of in pop music. Generally, this song, I really liked it. I think it's a good opener. You can definitely tell that it was meant to be the opener. I mean, it's called Beginning of the End. And so the production, everything, it feels like an opening track. You know, it feels like the calm before the storm, kind of. We're just easing into things. Then it goes on to Gemini, and I actually didn't write down any lyrics for this one. I really, really liked this song. This is one of the songs that she's had out for a while, and I saw it on her Instagram, and I thought, that's an interesting title, and that seems like an interesting song, and then I never listened to it, which, I mean, I guess is good because then I got to hear it within the context of the album, but man, I kind of wish that I had listened to it sooner because I loved it. And though I didn't write down any specific lyric, I thought it was really solid lyrically the whole way through. And I love the melody that she has in there, the or whatever, you know, it's close to that, right? The harmonies in this one, amazing, love it. Just the backing vocals in general, just great, great, great. So yeah, that's Gemini. Next one is Watching My Friends Fall in Love. I liked this one. Not to spoil my ranking too much, this was one that I didn't love as much, but the more I listen to it, the more and more I appreciate it. I like the production. It's got a little bit of a different sound than the rest of the songs, which I like. I think for me, the lyrical content, just upon first listen and first couple listens, it's a little, I don't know, I just wish there was a little bit of an edge to it. I wish that there was a little bit of a sarcastic undertone to it, and I really thought that the title being Watching My Friends Fall in Love, there was going to be a little bit of like, wow, yeah, I love watching all my friends fall in love while I am alone. And kind of having that sarcastic undertone, which I thought would have added a nice layer to the song. But, you know, it's not. It's just a song genuinely about watching your friends fall in love and being happy for them, which, you know, maybe I'm just cynical and a bad person, but I kind of wish that there was a little bit of edge, a little bit of another layer to the song. But like I said, it's growing on me. Next is title track, or at least the closest we get to a title track, called The Blue. The line that I picked up from this one is, now I'm going back in time to pick it apart, all that we left in the dark, I try and turn back the clock. I'll come back to that line later when we do the revamped, but this one really stuck out to me, and spoiler alert, is kind of what I based the entire revamped on, so you're going to want to remember that line. Also, this one, harmonies in this one were great. Secondhand Smoke is another song that she's had out for a while, and I think that I listened to it, or at least part of it, and it didn't hit me that hard, but then in listening to the album, it hit me. Like, I don't know what I was missing before, but this is a great song. And I wrote down the line, with all the shit you're talking, I inhaled all your toxins. I appreciate the wordplay there. Next song is Running in Place. The line I picked out from this one is actually the first line, which is, in New York City, down in the West End, they know me better than all my best friends. This song was, I really like the energy of this song. I like the production in this song. The chorus is repetitive, which is not my favorite, but it was still good. And, you know, it's just kind of like a fun pop song. And look, I do not mean to like ruin the song for anybody, but I cannot unhear Out of the Woods, like, from this song. I was listening to the chorus, I was like, what does this remind me of? And tell me not, like, the chorus in Running in Place and Out of the Woods sound very similar. And now every time that I listen to Running in Place, I can't help but think about that. Girl Code is the next song. This one is a cute song. I'll say that. I think that the storytelling at times in this song was a little bit clunky, and I kind of thought that the "but I don't want to break girl code" was a little bit cheesy given the situation. I think that there is something interesting to talking about being interested in someone that your friend is also interested in and having that moral dilemma of what to do. But in the instance of this song, she's just kind of talking about the first night that they meet, and her friend is like, "Oh, that guy's cute." And she's like, "Yeah, go ahead, go talk to him or whatever." While she secretly is also attracted to him. And then, like, by the end of the night, her friend is like, "You should go talk to him. Like, I'm not that into him or whatever." And it's just not as deep as she's making it seem. In the bridge, she says something along the lines of, "I didn't intend to steal anybody's man." And I'm like, you just met this person. Like, you're not stealing anybody's man. That being said, I did pick out a line that I like, because there we were in that photo booth with your eyes on me in Atlantic blue. Atlantic blue, nice touch with the word Atlantic. And I think I'm just a fan of the word Atlantic, so maybe it's just like a personal bias, but I liked that line. I'm making it seem like I really didn't like it, but really I just thought it was a cute song. Not my fave, but a cute song. Now, Convertible in the Rain? Convertible in the Rain? The storytelling worked a lot better for me in this one than it did in Girl Code. And the chorus? Oh, I could go on and on and on about the chorus of this song. I love it. Another one that she put out, of the ones that I've said, she released Gemini, Secondhand Smoke, Girl Code, and Convertible in the Rain. And I didn't listen to any of them. Which I guess is good because I, again, got to hear them in context of the album, but I just cannot believe that I did not listen to any of these songs. But back to Convertible in the Rain, like I said, great lyrics, great backing harmonies, great melody. Like I said, I love the chorus. And besides the chorus, we've got the line, "We're breezing through the streetlights as if there's a storm to chase, and I can recognize your love without looking at your face." I mean, you gotta appreciate the writers. Let me just say, last time she sings the chorus, and she sings "'Cause I love you in the chaos," and there's that echo vocal effect. Oh, I was in public when I first listened to the second half of this album and heard this song, and I was like, oh my god, I was freaking out. I was trying to keep it together because I was in public, but I was freaking out. That part is amazing. I love it, love it, love it. Next song is "Lucky to Love You." Another one that she put out before the album that I didn't listen to. This one is, again, a cute song. Maybe I just don't like cute songs. I don't know. It was cute, but the chorus is really repetitive, and it wasn't my favorite. I like the melody and the production in the bridge the most, so that's a bright spot. And again, it's like, this song is not bad. It's just kind of fine, cute, good, right? There's nothing stand out about that track. Fine Line, a piano ballad. One of the couple piano ballads that we get on the album. I think that the lyrics and the verses are a little bit corny, a little bit, I don't know, it kind of gives me that same vibe of Girl Code, and the storytelling there, it just didn't fully work for me. But I think that the chorus makes up for a lot of it. I really like the chorus. I really like the melody she sings on, "I can't look down until I've learned to fly." And the vocals on this track in particular are really, really strong. So though I think the verses could have been better, it's still a really strong track in my mind. "Boy from Home" is the next one. Man, another one that she released before the album came out that I didn't listen to. Who is surprised at this point? I listened to a short snippet that she posted of her singing this one on her Instagram, but I didn't listen to the song in full when it came out. Let me tell you, this one is very, very, very good. I really love songs where I feel like I can tell that the artist just kind of sat down at a piano or at a guitar and it all came pouring out of them all at once. This ultimate moment of self-expression, right? Some songs that I think of when I think of this are like Remedy by Adele, which is my favorite song of all time. Figure It Out by Anthony Ramos, another one of my favorite songs of all time. Now, I don't know if this song is quite on, favorite of all time level yet. We're gonna have to give it some time. But it's a really, really strong track, and I can feel that outpouring of emotion and this outpouring of honesty coming from the song, and I love it. I love it a lot. The next song is Darker Days. This one is moody, and I love a moody track. This reminds me of songs like Lacy by Olivia Rodrigo or Cherry by Harry Styles. And on both of those albums too, those songs really stuck out to me. Stuck out to me? Stuck is not a word. Those songs really stood out to me on those albums as well. And I just feel like in all of these songs, it's like the artist went a different route with the vocals and with the performance. And it really gives off a very different feeling, a very different tone from the rest of the album. In a way that still fits, like it still feels cohesive and like it belongs on the album. But it's just special. And I really, really like it in Darker Days. It's also more, I think, poetic than a lot of the other songs on the album. Hence, one of my favorite lyrics, which was, "Let me drown in a pile of northern gold, because in this town, it's not a pretty show." I mean, just any use of northern gold, like, that's a great, great lyric. Penultimate track on the album is called Play With Fire. And the lines I've chosen from this one are actually the opening lines. "Pyromaniac, now I bet you're glad you've escaped. To somebody who's ready, forget about the mess I made. Promise her forever, carve it in your marble grave, and you can settle down in the town a couple miles away." I mean, I talked about the kind of poetic nature of Darker Days, but I mean, carve it in your marble grave, that's also a very poetic line, I must say. Gotta Love a Climactic Bridge, which this one definitely has. And then in the bridge, we also get the other incredible line, "When you're swimming in the ashes and you're wondering what had happened and you know it was magic, but you carry all the baggage." We'll come back to that. Okay? Finally, we have Leader, the closing track on the original track listing. Another one that I can definitely feel the vulnerability. And like I said, she's got a very emotive voice and a very emotive tone, and you can hear the emotions in this one, which I appreciate. Now, I'm gonna put my ranking on the screen. Should I go like over here maybe? Hopefully I'm tech savvy enough to put it where I'm pointing. Based on my mini reviews of all the songs, this is probably not too shocking. And obviously, the album has only been out for a couple days, so this is subject to change, but as of right now, this is my ranking. Now, we get to the fun part. It's time to revamp the album for my own personal enjoyment. Remember, I told you to keep in the back of your mind the line from The Blue, which is, "Now I'm going back in time to pick it apart. All that we left in the dark, I try and turn back the clock." This line is basically, as I said, the foundation for my revamped version of the album. The Blue is a song about a breakup coming out of the blue and thinking that a relationship is going really well and then kind of being broken up with seemingly out of nowhere. And this line is about wanting to go back in time and wanting to comb over all of the details of the relationship and try and figure out where things went wrong. When I listened to this song for the first time, I thought, wouldn't it be interesting if the album started with The Blue and you get this concept of, because remember, I'm a concept person, right? So you get this concept of they're broken up with, out of the blue, and then the rest of the album, where at least, in this case, it's going to be kind of more like the first half of the album, is going back and talking about the relationship in chronological order and combing over the details and trying to figure out where things went wrong. And spoiler alert, how the breakup didn't really come out of the blue. So yeah, like I said, this is just kind of an interesting challenge to reorder the album in this way. But disclaimer, obviously this was not the intention for the album, and so there's going to be some reaches, okay? There's going to be some stretching, there's going to be some bending of logic, there might be some plot holes. You know, just come along with me, just reach with me. Also, if you watched the Think Later video, you may be thinking, Avery, you just like it when albums start with the title track. Or, Avery, you just like when albums follow the chronology of a relationship. And to that I say, fair. Fair, okay? I have my preferences, but this is my video. As I said, it's just for fun, and I find it fun to start with the title track and arrange things in the chronology of relationships. So either get on board or get off, okay? Get on board or get off. If you're not on board, you can't get off. All right, with all that being said, let's finally get into my reordering. Track number 1, as I already mentioned, is The Blue. Like I said, we're setting the tone, we're introduced to this breakup that happens. It reminds me of like when in a book you read the first chapter and it's at the climax, right? And then you jump back in time and it tells the story of how you get to that climax. That's what this reminds me of. We get the climax, we get the breakup, and now we're going back in time and seeing how we got there. And that begins with track 2, Running in Place. There seems to be 2 main settings in the album. There's New York, and then there's Brynn's hometown, which I looked up is somewhere in Massachusetts. And in listening to Running in Place, I was trying to figure out, where is this set? Is it set in New York or is it set in Massachusetts? And I've landed on my interpretation, or at least my interpretation at this moment in time, which is that it is set in Massachusetts because it talks a lot about wanting to get out, right? At the end, it's like, I've got to get out, I've got to get out, I got to go right now. My interpretation is that she's talking about living in Massachusetts and kind of reflecting on times that she's visited New York and been to New York in the way that she just felt like she really belonged in the city, and how she's kind of daydreaming about moving there. And then by the end of the song, she decides that she's going to move there. So that's what Running in Place does. It starts the story off of like, okay, she's making the move to New York. Then we get track 3, which is Girl Code. This is an obvious, next track for me because we've got her in New York. God, I'm such a book person. I'm literally describing this like it's a novel, but she's in New York, right? We've got her setting, and then now we're getting our meet cute of, her being at this bar and meeting this guy, and she doesn't want to break girl code, but it's okay because her friend is okay with it, right? So they have this meet cute. I think with this ordering of the album, it adds another layer to the ending of this song where the instrumentation kind of strips back a little bit, and it's talking about, who knows where this would go. This is kind of what I'm saying about, like, when you reorder an album, it changes the meanings of some of the songs. When you read that the first time, it's like, actually nobody knows where this would go. But in placing The Blue first, you're like, oh, I know where this is going. Like, I know where we're ending up. That being said, track 4 is Gemini. I chose to put Gemini here because it is still about falling in love, right? In the chorus it says, I'm falling for a Gemini. So it's still about falling in love. And I'd say it's actually the only other song on the album that's about the process of falling in love, not about being in love. And so that's why I put it here. Also, Gemini is a moment where you can hear the doubt creep in, and you can hear Brynn letting her past relationships and her past experiences cause her to doubt, cause her to worry about this person who, with this order, worrying about the person that she met, presumably in girl code. And I think this song it adds a little bit of edge to what is otherwise a section of very lovey-dovey, cute songs. It breaks it up, keeps it from getting too repetitive. It keeps it from getting too happy, okay? We gotta have some self-doubt. Speaking of happy, loving, cute songs, track number 5 is Lucky to Love You. And like I said, it's everything that I just described it as. This is the first song we get. It's really about being in love, not falling in love. So that's kind of why I placed it after Girl Code and Gemini. But in the original track listing, Lucky to Love You is actually after Convertible in the Rain, which in my ordering, number 6 is Convertible in the Rain. So I flipped the two. The reason for that is because in Convertible in the Rain, there is this line, "We've been together for almost 2 years, but tonight it feels brand new." And in the original order of the album, again, not to say that she's going for chronology or anything like that, but in the original ordering of the album, we get Girl Code, and then right after Girl Code, we get Convertible in the Rain. So we go from just meeting this person to 2 years into the relationship, which is a huge time gap, like a huge time jump, right? So in trying to put this into more chronological order, and especially, following the relationship in detail, it makes sense to put 2 songs in between Girl Code and Convertible in the Rain. So now it goes Girl Code, Gemini, Lucky to Love You, then Convertible in the Rain. And by this point, it's like, okay, maybe we are really 2 years into the relationship. And that makes the next song concerning. Because the next song, number 7, I have to hold them up, okay? It's a rule. Number 7 is Beginning of the End. This was a song that I almost cut from the album. Not because I don't like it. And I mean, I like every song on the album, but I like this song. And I think it's a really strong opener. And that's actually why I almost cut it. Because this whole thing is really based upon having the blue as an opener. It's like, how would the album change or need to be restructured if you put the blue first? And if Beginning of the End can't be the opening track, is it going to be jarring to put a song that sounds so much like an introduction, like an opening track, in the middle of an album? But, I'm trying to challenge myself to not cut any songs, especially since I really think that every song on this album is distinctive and has something to say. I think they each bring something new to the table. I didn't want to cut this one. So it's exactly what it is, which is the beginning of the end of this relationship. I think an interesting way to look at it is that the blue is really soon after the relationship, and you're kind of in this period, or Brynn, in this instance, is kind of in this period of looking back on the relationship with, rose-colored lenses, and being able to only remember the good things and only remember the good times. But as she's going back in time and combing through the details, she starts to realize that maybe this didn't actually come out of the blue, and starts to see the signs. And Beginning of the End is the first track of seeing that there were flaws in the relationship and there were clear signs for why the relationship was going to ultimately end. And that leads us into the culmination of that with number 8, Leader. Now this was a big change, moving the original closing track to, basically dead smack in the middle of the album. But I chose to do it this way because, again, I'm interested with the way that switching the order can switch the context. And I think putting Leader in this spot is the ultimate moment where, in my mind, in this version of the album, all of the bad things about the relationship come flooding back to Brynn. And she realizes that, there were times when she was even close to leaving herself, right? And she's just kind of glossed over that in looking back on the relationship through these rose-colored lenses and looking back through this relationship and forgetting about all of the bad times and all of the hardships. I think that, if the album was actually structured this way, we'd probably need something in between beginning of the end and later, but like I said, there's gonna be some stretches. So, just suspend your disbelief and work with me here, okay? I'm working with what I've got. So that's number 8. And I think this realization that the relationship wasn't perfect leads into what I kind of deem like the next 2 songs mostly as this period of reflection. Now that she's realized that the relationship wasn't as perfect as she'd built it up to be in her mind, she can start to process things. And in my head, it's like, not even just process the relationship, but also really enter into this time of deep introspection and thinking about her life in general. That's why we get track number 9, Boy From Home. If you know the short film of All Too Well, where there's that part that's like the reeling, and it's like Sadie Sink, her character, like being in the room and sobbing and just feeling all of the emotions, and then she starts to write the novel that becomes All Too Well. This is like Brynn Cartelli's moment where she like starts to write the novel, or in this case, like writes these songs. I just imagine Brynn alone in her room writing Boy From Home because, as I said, she's entered into this period of just general reflection of the way that her past has stuck to her and the way that this relationship has impacted her. And so that's the kind of lane that I feel like Boy From Home fits in. And then in that similar lane, we've got track 10. I'm about to run out of fingers for this album, but track 10, Darker Days. We know from Running in Place that she was just so desperate to get out of her hometown. And now this is kind of going back and really diving into why. I love this song, like I said, because of its moodiness, but also because it isn't really about a boy. It's not about a relationship. It's about her hometown and the environment of her hometown and the feel of her hometown, and of course also about being in a really dark place, which I feel like is fitting at this point in the overall arc of like trying to deal with this relationship and trying to deal with her past. Another big switch, but we've got track 11, Secondhand Smoke. Secondhand Smoke is a really emotionally impactful song, and I think it's a really powerful song because it's got the line, I have to let you go. I talked about this in the Tate video, but this is like the grave of this album, and I mean, I think this is a much stronger song than Grave, but they're both about finally letting go of a relationship. Having Secondhand Smoke after we've had all of this emotional turmoil and we've seen the relationship in its brightest moments and in its darkest moments, its darkest days, finally having this moment of release is really cathartic, and it feels really impactful for the listeners. And then we go on to track number 12, which is Watching My Friends Fall in Love. I don't have it. 12. I mean, it's very near the end of the album now, but it's what I consider the beginning of like the healing process, like the true healing process, because we had that moment of Secondhand Smoke where she lets go of the person. And I think that it adds that layer that I was missing from the original ordering, because it doesn't have the sarcastic like bitterness of, oh my god, all my friends are falling in love and I'm alone, but it does have this, I'm finally okay enough to watch my friends fall in love and feel happy for them and not feel heartbroken about the fact that I'm not in love anymore, or at least I'm not in a relationship anymore. Again, I think it's so fun to put this in a different spot on the album and completely change the connotation of the song, putting it at this number 12 spot. Number 13, Fine Line. This song is a winding down again from Watching My Friends Fall in Love, and I think it brings us back down to earth a little bit and back down to the healing is not always positive. It can be back and forth, and you know in this song she says like, I'm not getting worse, I'm not getting better, but she's still holding on to hope that things in the future will be brighter, and she's walking this fine line, but you hear that there's hope in this song, which I think fits well in this spot and goes along with this healing theme that we've arrived at. Finally, we get to track 14, which is Play with Fire. Now, man, I have listened to this song a lot. I've looked over the lyrics a lot, and I still don't fully know what to make of it. Like, I still can't fully pinpoint what I think this song means. I think it's probably got a bunch of different meanings. I guess the closest I've come to an interpretation of this song is that it's about the risk of falling in love. How sometimes, it's great and it works out, and sometimes you get burnt. I think it goes in multiple ways in this song. It's not my fault you wanted to play with fire, right? I think she could be talking to the person she was in a relationship with. I think that she could be talking to herself. And I think that there are many ways to interpret this song, which I kind of love that for a closing track. And also, like I said, it's got this really climactic bridge, and I think it works really, really well as a closing track to end on this like big moment, or at least have a big moment in the bridge where, might I remind you, she sings the line, when you're swimming in the ashes and you're wondering what had happened, and you know it was magic, but you carry all the baggage. And this is very close to the end of the album in the original track listing, but as a closer, it really, I feel like, outlines the journey that we've been on, especially the, and you're wondering what had happened, because that's where we started this, right, was with the blue and wondering what had happened and wondering how the relationship ended like it did. I think it's a really cool full circle moment to have this then be the closing track. Lastly, it ends with that kind of like stumbling piano. I just love that. And then it just kind of cuts off. And then, if you loop the album, then it fades back into the blue, and just chef's kiss. I really like it. So yeah, that is Out of the Blue Revamped. That is my album review, my ranking, and my reordering. Again, I know that very few people are gonna watch this video, but if you listen to the album and if you feel so inclined to comment, I'd love to know what you thought of the album and the order of the album, the original order, and also my order. And what are your favorite lyrics? And what would your order be? And again, I have no idea if I'm going to do any more of these, but if I keep being inspired to make these videos, then I'm going to keep making these videos. If you made it this far in the video, thank you so much. You are so sweet. And bye.